Just a second. Okay. Right. Just a second. Right. So good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining in today's for the session on eMeet Your Design and Fashion School, where you get to interact with the top management of each design school in India. The idea is to keep your options open to private design and fashion schools and consider only the top few schools that you need to get into, right? Um, if you missed my previous webinar on design schools to consider in 2022, please have a look at this link. And today we have Dr. Joydeep Chatterjee, who is the Dean of Jindal School of Art and Architecture, Sonipat, who is joining us today. He'll be talking to you about this school. Now, just a little bit about Professor Joydeep. So he's known as the Swiss Army knife. All right. And he's done a lot of things, right? So he's a multidisciplinary professional, an architect, a historian, and an anthropologist as well. He's worked in various settings, both and primarily in an academic setting, and he's been a consultant to various organizations as well. So he's got a wide range of experience, and this experience stems from the fact that he's done his architecture. He's done his master's in architecture from the University of Cincinnati and a PhD from Cornell University as well. So he's taught in the US, he's taught in India, and he has done a whole range of subjects that he's a professional on. Apart from that, publications are plenty, and conferences that he's done aplenty. All right. Thanks for Joydeep for coming in today. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Leon. Thanks for having me. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm done with that. So you can probably take it from here.
Thank you. I wanted to start with maybe share it with your students. You were talking about private schools of designs. Just yesterday, or day before yesterday, we actually got this fabulous news about the Jindal School of Art and Architecture. I don't know if Azad shared that with you, already spilled the beans. Azad, did you tell him? I hope not. So he left that to me to do. So, there's something called the Solar Decathlon, which is actually, it started off in the United States as a competition program in which students from all School of Art and Architecture and Design schools would propose a building that would have a net zero impact on the environment, right? And then this started in India a few years ago, right? And Jindal, our school, took part in it for the first time. And, and there were about 99 schools, the top schools from all over. And, we are one of the 4 finalists this year, right? Beating out almost every other school in this country.
That is amazing.
We are in, so this is like a big thing. And, if we win it, then we are, the design is getting built, and, it's part of the, it's going to be part of the top school. I mean, we've beaten every other school in India, basically. So,
fantastic.
It had IITs, NITs, CEPT, SPA, everyone.
All right. All the best to you guys for that. I really hope.
We just like the 4 entries, we just have to win to become the top, right? So this is a great. I'm just totally picked about it. I'm just crazily happy about it. And considering that, we're a 4-year-old school, but I think that speaks volumes of what we are trying to do in this place. So, I want to take a couple of minutes to talk about this place a bit more. So is it okay if I share my screen and show you a presentation? Very quick one. I'm not going to take too much of time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let me do that, right? Okay, very quickly. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes. Yes, you can put it on presentation.
I'm just talking about generally studying at the Jindal School of Art and Architecture. As you'll see, we have a lot of programs, and I'll talk about those in a minute. Now, we started this school, as I always say, with one simple, very simple idea, right? It was to become a place which talks, makes, and studies the built environment in a fundamentally different way, right? Unlike how any other school is studying or making or talking about the built environment. Now, of course, you may ask me the question, what is the built environment, right? And I have a very simple definition for it. Any different environment that is built by humans, for humans, of humans. And now if you think of it that way, right, almost every environment in the world is a built environment, right? We think our forests are natural environments. No, they are not. They're actually built environments because somebody regulates them. We have laws, we circumscribe them. A forest is actually also a built environment. Now, so why this focus on the built environment? Well, let me tell you two very simple reasons for it. For a while we begin to, and why not call it architecture or interior or anything like that? Why are we saying that we are a school that focuses on the built environment as a whole, right? As a whole, that's the key, as a whole. Well, it is because, I'm quoting Albert Einstein here. He says, you cannot solve new problems using the same tools and the same thinking that created them. So what is the thinking that created our cities? Our cities were created by a kind of thinking which taught and which imagined things in silos, in little compartments. So the urban planner did not know what the architect was doing. The transportation planner did not know what the urban planner was doing. The architect did not know what the interior was doing. The infrastructure guy did not know what the historian was doing in the city. And that's why we have the kind of mess that we do today. We forgot to think that a city is fundamentally an interrelated system, right? And you need multiple forms of knowledge and newer ways to think about the city, to think about the built environment, all right? Second, why this emphasis on the built environment? Because as I say, it's the largest industry in the world. These are some kind of data for you all to look at and understand it, right? I mean, it requires an investment which is equal to the GDP of India. It requires about 44 million skilled jobs in the next 5 years, right? Why? Because India has one of the lowest number of people who actually work in the built environment. I mean, look at the numbers. UK, 38. Nigeria, so much more of a poorer country, they still have more people who are working in this area than we do. We are at 0.23, right? Well, now, what do we need? We need people who are going to work in housing, in services, in infrastructure, in land reform, in policy reform, in spatial demand, in health management, in waste management, connectivity, accessibility, governance, etc., etc. Now, here is what I mean by saying that if we keep producing the same kind of professional that we have done for the last 70 years, we are actually not going to produce people who can work in these areas, right? What we are doing at JSAA is very different, right? I'm going to give you 5 reasons, and I'll talk about these, in the way in which we are changing the kind of professional who is going to come. Because look at it this way. Today, if you join a school, your peak is going to come 25 years down the line, 20 years down the line, right? So you're actually going to be solving problems that we have no idea about, using tools that we have no idea about. The best thing that we can do is give you a skill that actually allows you to work on multiple things together, right? So that's the way we are redefining the professional who is there, right? And I think each one of these 5 reasons will actually enable you to become a fundamentally different kind of a professional, right? It's going to enable you to become a leader, a game changer, right? But most importantly, it is also going to help you build a world that is equitable, safe, healthy, beautiful, accessible, and sustainable. Because, there's no other way for us forward. We're going to destroy the world the way we are going. All right? The first thing is a realization that if the problems of the world are multiple, you cannot have a one-size-fits-all curriculum. All right? If the people who come in to learn and want to work are from different backgrounds and have different forms of knowledge, different ways of learning, different styles of learning. Why should you have one kind of a curriculum that fits everybody, right? So what we do at JSAA is that we fundamentally give you certain basic points and then allow you to design your own curriculum. Number two, how will you know about the reality of problems? You know, a city is a very complex issue. A building is a very complex, waste management, all of these are very complex things. Now, on paper, you can do what the hell you want. You know, I can take a building from here and move it to here in paper. But try doing that in real life. You will find that 20 people will come and stand on your head and say you cannot move a brick. So what happens is, in today's day and age, you know, students, when they are in school and you have a completely theoretical kind of a program, you turn around and you sit there and you imagine you can move the world without any consequences. You can't, right? So what we do with our students is, from day one, live projects, right? This project that I just mentioned for the solar decathlon, it's a live project. Our students are actually doing this to a building in Uttar Pradesh. It's called the Hamara School, right? And they're going to make this building completely net zero, right? And so much so the client is so interested in it now that they're like, wow, this is going to become a building that's going to get featured all over the world. Done by students. So the idea is for you from day one to really work on live projects, because that's the only way you learn. All right. Number three, we live in a world where you can no longer think of yourself as an isolated school. You cannot, right? At JSAA, JGU, we have 250 kind of collaborations. We have what are called short-term study abroads. We have semester exchanges. We have semester abroads. We are applying to what are called extension programs. Well, not only that, 9 out of 10 times we hold what are called co-classes taught by people from outside. So while you're in school, you're working with students from all over the world. You know, some of our students were working on this environmental humanities laboratory. What is it? It is a collection of students from Jindal, from New York, from Brazil, from Italy, who are working together right now as we speak and creating a new atlas of the world. So it's not only your curriculum is global, right? Everything. So it's you know, at JSA, there's no local global. Everything is a mishmash of, you know, you're constantly working from people from all over. Number four, and this is, you know, the thing I cannot stress on enough. It is faculty, 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 faculty. To do this kind of a thing, you have to have faculty that is itself exposed and trained at the best places, have worked at the best places, right? And have that kind of an outlook. So one of the things that we did, you know, we went ahead and got people from the top universities in the world, right? We have people from Purdue, from Heidelberg, from Polytechnico in Milan, from Cornell, from Tokyo, from Georgia Tech, from Cincinnati, you know, you name it. Oxford, Glasgow, we have people from all over the world. Utrecht, you know, everybody is trained, taught all over the world, right? So it's a collection of people like, and you know, anywhere else, unlike anywhere else in this country, right? So and not only that, like me, you know, you kind of introduced me as, you know, kind of being the Swiss Army knife. Well, almost everybody is at the college. So the first thing we ask our faculty is, okay, so you are, let's say, an architect, or you are an engineer. What else are you? So our school has people who are architects, engineers, lawyers, anthropologists, historians, philosophers, geographers, gender studies, sociologists. We have all kinds of disciplinary people who are dealing with the question of design and the built environment in our school, right? So the idea is for you to be able to understand that every building is sociological, it's political, it's economical, it's engineering, right? It is so. How do you understand it from multiple points of view, things that you do, all right? Number 5 is this question of interdisciplinarity. Remember, I started off with this. When I said we need people to work in all these kind of areas, right? How do we make that happen? So we asked the question, why not create designers who can also work in these areas, right? And what did we do? We created something called the JSAT-shaped graduate. What is the JSAT-shaped graduate? We said, all right, you have your major area of study. So, you could be doing architecture, you could be doing interiors, you could be doing urban studies or community development. You could be working on virtual environments. You could be doing any of those as your major. But then you have to do a minor area of study. And a minor area of study will help you link your expertise to different other forms of expertise. So we have like 12 or 13 things for you to choose from, right? So you could be doing architecture and combining it with business studies, for example. You could be doing interiors and combining it with journalism and communication. And all of a sudden, you're actually working on set design and production design. Right? So the idea is for everybody to become extremely unique kind of professionals, right? So that when you go for a job, right, and we send you out for jobs and we send you out into the world, right, you don't come across like the person who's next to you. Right? You go and tell us, you do go and tell your company, yeah, I can design for you, but let me tell you, I can also help the policy things about your design. Now, suddenly you're a different kind of a professional altogether, right? You're somebody who says, I've done my urban studies, but I've done project management along with it. You're a fundamentally different, and this is working brilliantly. We have students, Dion, who are combining international relations with architecture. Now, you would say, Joydeep, that's kind of incredible. Like, what does international relations have to do with architecture? But it does, right? What this student is really working on, and this person is now actually beginning to work on questions of what's called the GATT. I don't know if you know that. It's called the General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs. And you have to realize architecture as a discipline is actually influenced by these kind of trade treaties of international relations. Our student is working in that kind of an area. Right? So it fundamentally is changing where our designers are going. They're going and working with companies like Pricewaterhouse, Ernst & Young. They're going and working in companies like that. You're like, what are architects doing there? Yes, they are, because they need people like that. It's a very different kind of a thing that's happening, right? So I'm going to stop here, Dion, because these are the 5 things that I wanted to bring to your attention, and then I just wanted to kind of open it up for questions, and stuff like that, right? Okay.
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, very, very interesting way of delivery that you've mentioned. So the 5 points of flexible curriculum, solving real life problems through a project-based based approach, international tie-ups, very, very well achieved faculty, and a interdisciplinarity in what each student does, right? So just
just to add to that, an interdisciplinarity which helps you fashion yourself as a unique kind of a professional, right? Because you're gonna have this kind of interdisciplinary combination which nobody else does, because between the 5 majors and 12 minors, you have like more than 60 combinations that you can do.
Right.
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
So just 1 second. Now, in terms of your BDS programs, all right, what are the BDS programs that you'll offer?
So major-wise, right?
Yeah,
major-wise, right? Major-wise, we have an interior program, which is a 4-year program. We have something called a community and urban development program. Right? And very soon, going ahead, we'll be opening another kind of what we call a user experience and virtual environments program, right? But BDES, these are our 2 major programs. We have another major that we have is something called the BA Built Environment Studies. This is a 4-year program for architecture for those who come from a non-STEM background, right? And then we have the 5-year architecture program.
Right.
So these are our major programs. And then I showed the list of the 10 or 12 minors that are there.
Right. Right. So the architecture, built environment, the interior design, and the community-based program.
Yeah. Urban development. Yeah. Community and urban. Yes.
Right. Now, so when it comes to architecture, I mean, the target group is right now the design group. All right.
Mhm.
So we come to architecture some of the time, but
Yep.
for a student considering design, so there's one possibility is the BA built environment. The second one
Yes.
is interior design, and the third
Yes.
one would
Is
be
urban and community development.
urban and community,
Sorry,
right?
community and urban development. I
Yeah.
apologize. Community and urban development.
So as far as interior design goes, that's something that we kind of understand in
Right.
general. It's easier to understand.
Right.
Um, but let me put it this way: when you talk about interior design, so what are the areas or what is different about your interior design approach?
Well,
Right.
look at it this way. I think that the difference is really those five things, okay, that I'm laying out, right? I don't think there's you see, let me explain it like this. When you have a live project, everything changes. Now, if I go into the nitty gritty of it, it'll take me 5 hours. The big thing is this: in every other school, you're doing it as an imaginary project. So you don't have a client, you don't have the material, you don't have the money that you're actually spending. So imagine how many things are changing because all of this is suddenly coming in, right? You are getting a real life experience even while you are in school. You see, what it does, Dion, is change the very definition of creativity. Let me put it like that. Creativity for our school is something very simple, which is this: everybody in the world is creative. You need to, if you don't have constraints, right? You need constraints, and the way you navigate constraints are how creative you are. Now imagine something. If I tell you, go and make anything in the world that you want, right? For us, that really isn't creativity, because when you go out into the world and work, that's not how you will, that's not how you will ever work, right? You will never, no client will come to you and say, make anything you want, right?
Yeah.
Every client will come and tell you what they want. The challenge is, how do you take what they want and create something fascinating out of it? Do you see what I'm saying? That is the big difference between any other school and ours, right? We, reality, you never learn. Like I keep saying, you have I also teach, we will also teach our students how to make a furniture, but you will not make a drawing of it. You will first break that furniture, learn how to reverse engineer it, and make it on your own. Now, suddenly, you're not only learning about how to make drawings about furniture, but you're learning about material in a very different way. Right? So it's the approach, Dion, which is very, very different. See, because the objects that we make are the same. Right? Tomorrow, if you go out as an interior designer, you will also be, let's say, doing a restaurant, and so will I. The question is the method that you will use to do it, and the way that you will get trained to do it. Right? So when our student graduates, he says, okay, no problem. You want to make any? I've made 5 interiors before already. Right? But that's not what another. That's why the student who graduates from here is actually industry ready. See, that thing doesn't make any sense to me, because there's been a collapse between the industry and this in a certain sense, right? Now, for the student who goes from another school, there's a huge learning curve, because all along in school, they had been told you can design what you want, and that's being very creative. They suddenly go to an office, and the office person says, can you make me a chair? Right? And they come up with a chair which they realize is 25,000 rupees per chair. Then the office says, Bab, not possible, yeah. This is not going to work. It's not going to sell anywhere. What you have to realize is that here is what you need to make within this constraint. So that is what I mean by our students getting trained very differently. I don't know if that answers your question. Sorry, you're muted, Dion. I can't hear you.
All right. Sorry, I couldn't find
Yeah,
the
yeah.
button. Right. So that absolutely answers my question. And when I talk to a lot of students, and this is after they graduate, right? So they say, I'm not happy when I joined this company. There's too much of restrictions, things like that. And then I realize that there's a disconnect between what they have studied,
Exactly.
and where they've reached. So there's
So, and then we keep complaining, and everybody keeps complaining. There's a disjunct. There's a disjunct. The industry keeps saying we are not getting good designers. People say, "Oh, I am unhappy. Why did I take up this field?" The problem is the education that you are getting.
True.
Right. The problem is the education. Look, please understand this. You will, in your life, when you go to practice, you're going to practice for 25 years, 30 years in your life. Some projects you will get freedom, some projects you will not get freedom, some projects you will get a lot of constraints. The challenge, that is the challenge, no? That is where your creativity is. Maximum constraints, I'll give you an example. When we were doing that project in Kalkaji, of which I showed you that little image, the client, who was a not-for-profit, turned around and told us, we really want to change this. He told the students, we want to change this. We want to take this community center and we want to make it excellent. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. He said, let me tell you one thing. I have no money what to do it for. I cannot even spend 1 rupee on this. So what did we do? We realized that that was right next to a rag pickers colony in Kalkaji. We got in touch with all the rag pickers and said, can you give us all the things that you're not going to use? They said, yes. I said, we'll make something out of that. That to me is creativity, no? To me, that is what fundamentally defines a designer. You have an intense problem and you figure the most creative way to solve it. If I don't give you a problem, how are you going to give me a creative solution? The best designer are the ones who will take the most complex problem and show you how to solve it. That's what is interesting. Sorry.
Right. That's absolutely right. All right. But okay. But I mean, I will come to that question in a bit, Ameya. But I was thinking about it now with respect to your, say, built environment program or the community and urban development program, right? What are the kind of opportunities or the jobs that you think that these kids can get into, right? I understand, like, would it generally be in consulting? Would it be, what kind of a job would they get? Do they get
can I tell you,
because that's difficult for me to visualize.
Can I tell you the kind of jobs and the kind of things that our students are already doing? That might give you an idea.
Maybe, yeah, that would.
Okay. All right. So we have students who are combining, let's say, built environment studies with journalism, right? And all they are doing is now there are companies which are constantly blogging about cities. These are big ideas, right? We have our students who are working with a company called Rethinking the Future. Rethinking the Future does what? All it does is create real good discourse about our cities. How do we manage our cities? So our students are going and working in that. No, they're going and working in print journalism. Because every journalistic, every magazine has actually a city consultant. We are training our students to go and work in places like that. Okay. Some of our students, I'll give you another interesting example. We have a company called Kala Chopal, right? We have tied up with more than 70, 80 companies, okay? We have a company called Kala Chopal. What are they working on? They have gotten a project to remap the cultural heritage and the historic buildings of Bulandshahr. Those of our students who are going into virtual environments and architecture, they're just doing 3D mapping of cities and creating an online city now that people can go and actually visit, even if you can't go to Bulandshahr. You see what I'm trying to say is this. We have students who are working on GIS-based understanding of how disease is flowing. Community urban development students. We are doing mapping of how different communities actually start fighting with each other because of design of the cities. This is a whole field, something called intersectoral conflicts that happen in cities. Students are going and working in things like that. Right? Some students are going in because look, as I keep saying, the built environment is the largest industry in the world. What up until now, Dion, we did not have people who were trained to work. So who did the work of, let me give you an example. Last 7 years, there's been something called Smart Cities Project. Everybody would have heard of it. Okay. Who do you think were the people who applied for the Smart City projects? Do you know that? Only MBAs applied for it. Because there was not a single designer who knew how policy, finance, and design come together. They were not trained like that. So the MBA, the program that the MBA gives, doesn't have any design component on it. That's why half of the smart cities projects are failing. The designers could never get into that space because they did not have training of what is policy, what is finance. See, what I'm saying is work is there everywhere because the built environment is the largest industry in the world. The built environment has studies of, let's talk about women's safety. Let's talk about simple things like footpaths in our cities. You know what I'm saying? You know how much work there is in just lighting and making our cities safe? But designers, architects, they were not trained to even think that they can go and do all of this. Like, how do you do these kind of things? So what is happening, what I guess I'm trying to tell you is this, that there are a whole slew of jobs which were out there, which were outside the purview of those who were trained in the traditional way to be architects or interior designers, right? Or to be urban developers, right? We are just shifting that completely. You know, I know I've asked you, but I've asked a lot of people, what do you think is the highest hirer of architects and interior designers today? People tell me the construction industry. I said, no, it's the gaming industry, for heaven's sake. You cannot think of a single game that actually is not set somewhere. And yet architects are not trained to design games. Why? We are saying, can we shift that? Can you combine architecture and virtual environments as a minor? Right? So suddenly you're doing something else. See, we are going into a world more and more where set kind of jobs are disappearing. We are going into a world where a job has multiple prongs to it. You have to fit yourself into this. Think about it. Dion, your and my parents, they started one job. They stayed in that job, went 9 to 5, and, you know, for the 45 years of their... Which one of us has done that today? Our children are not going to do that at all. In the last 2 years, we noticed everybody is working from home. Could we think this was possible? So I am saying that the world has changed completely. What we are trying to do here is produce a different kind of a person who has multiple skill sets. Design is one of them. Thinking about policy may be one of them. Whatever you want to make combinations with. And now go out and find out, because there is a work there that will combine these skills. And we will place you in places like that. And we are placing our students. I mean, our students are going and interning with the World Wildlife Fund. You're like, what are designers going to an architect? Interior designers of the World Wildlife Fund? What are they doing there? Well, let me tell you, what are they doing there? Because now we have come to a place where we realize, okay, that, you know, animals also need certain environments to be designed in a certain way. If we are messing up their natural habitats, when we reclaim natural habitats, when we rehabilitate animals, we need to design their spaces too. Yes, please. So what I'm saying is, you know, I am just amazed by the fact that even most people who are in our age group turn around and tell me, yeah, but you know, architecture building banate hain. I'm like, sorry, they don't do that anymore. Very few of them actually do things like that anymore. Because let me tell you, when you make a building, an average building has a 75-year-old lifeline. How many buildings will you make in your life? You can't. Work is somewhere else. Right? understand where that work is. It's completely exploded. But this is not only true of design, this has happened everywhere. One of the highest paid people in the medicine business now are not doctors. They are biostatisticians who essentially map how medicine and diseases work can be understood statistically. So it's a mathematician who's working in the field of medicine and making double the money of doctors. That's what I want people to realize. That do not talk about jobs which were there 20 years before, because that's already gone. Let's think what's happening 30 years from now. That's where as a university, as a school, this is our biggest responsibility, to train students for the future. Because if you graduate from JSA with a skill set that's already 30 years old, I've killed you. That's it. Your life is dead. You can't do anything. I have to train you 30 years into the future. Right? And that's what we are in the business of.
Yeah, reminds me of one of the books I've read called Freakonomics.
Yes.
It really takes things which are unrelated and there's a correlation amongst the two.
But Dion, more and more we are beginning to realize this.
Yeah.
Right? We are realizing this, that, we had developed this blinkered way of looking at the world. Okay. Oh, I'm a doctor. I will only look at like this. But what is genetics if it does not combine chemistry, physics, biology, and mathematics? It does now. See, if you start thinking that design is all about making a sketch, okay, you're already 100 years old. Fine, you're my grandfather. I'm not even going to be interested in doing something like that. Right? Okay.
Absolutely. So, and the other aspect which, I kind of picked up from what you mentioned now, even now as we go towards what Facebook is calling the metaverse, right? Or
Right.
the popularizing that. So you're going to have completely digital communities there as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, and people are going to be living,
Yes.
a lot into that metaverse.
Yes.
So there's going to be a lot more opportunities in that sense, possibly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But think about it. Our environment today, I will say, is already an electronically mediated environment. Let's look at the last 2 years. Have we not been living in the metaverse already in a certain sense? 2 years we had COVID. Everybody learned through this the way we are learning. We were all already in the metaverse in a certain sense.
Absolutely.
We were all having virtual classes, 25, 30 students together in the laptop. We were all already in the metaverse. The future is here. We are the ones who have to realize that it is here already. We are resisting it. We want to hold on to old ways. Forget it. Let's think ahead. Let's think ahead. No, good point about metaverse. Absolutely. I mean, in fact, we are starting a program specifically for that. I don't want to, talk about it too much right now, but, it is about user experience in a virtual environment. Because that's the future. We are all living in virtual environments, yeah. My phone is an environment. My phone, my watch is an environment. My phone is, all of these are environments into which we are immersed constantly. We are interacting it with it physically. It's not very far. What we saw Tony Stark do in Marvel, take a computer and go, and the it's happening already. So what is the real environment? We are all living in what can be called hybrid environments now. So we have to think accordingly.
Awesome. Right. So let me just check.
I don't. Amaya had a question. Amaya.
Yeah, I think Azad has handled
that. So Azad, yeah. Please reach out to Amaya and make sure that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am not very clear if it's a he or a she, because I think Amaya is.
It's she.
Okay, Amaya. Okay, all right. So please do reach out to her, and if Amaya wants to talk to me one-on-one, you can always figure it out.
Absolutely.
So because I was speaking with her mom as well today, and we were kind of trying to figure out what this community and urban design is, right?
Azad, you might want to put her in touch with Girish, who's the program coordinator for this, right?
I can do that. We can do that.
And
Yeah,
Amaya,
I'll
you
talk to
go
her.
and
I'll
talk to
talk to her.
Professor Girish Agarwal, who is the Amaya. Can I tell you something? One of the things you can always do at JSA is all our emails are up on there. Just write to us. We love students to write to us. Just write to us, sir, I'm interested in coming to JSA. Believe you me, we are always interested in students who are interested in us. Let me tell you that secret about all faculty members. Okay, the best way for you to get us interested in you is to show you that you are interested in us. So if you just write to us saying, "Hey, I'm interested in coming to JSA and I like this program. Can you tell me more about it?" And you will notice that we'll flood you with so much information. You'll be like, "Okay," right?
All
So do
right.
that, Amaya, please.
Right. So, Azad, if I can come down to you, and if you can just give us an idea about the admission dates and the processes that are required, that would be good.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dion. So as Jaideep informed you while beginning in this session, we are offering two Bachelor of Design program at the undergraduate level. That's Interior Design degree program of 4-year, and Community and Urban Development program. Again, it's a 4-year Bachelor of Design degree. So admission to these two programs is through our own entrance examination, that is Jindal Creative Aptitude Test, which is happening in 2 rounds. That's one round is your creative aptitude test that can be given. It's a home proctored online entrance exam. You can appear from home. And once you qualify in the written test, we will invite you for the portfolio and the interview. Post you qualify this second round as well, we will offer you the admission, wherein you need to book your admission with the payment of ₹1 lakh. That's part of your first semester fee. And later in the month of end of the June, you can pay the balance fee and start your classes from 1st of August. Those who have already registered for the next entrance exam, which is happening from 31st March to 3rd of April, it's spread into 4 days. So you can choose, there are multiple slots available during the day, morning 8:30 to 7:30 in the late evening. So you can book your entrance exam slots, immediately post filling up our application form, which are now available on our website. The cost of application form is ₹3,000, and separately you need to register for our Jindal Creative Aptitude Test. The moment you submit your application form, we will send you the sample paper, which will help you to prepare. You can take a guidance at the faculties at the DQ lab, and you also get the idea what kind of portfolio we require at Jindal to become part of one of the premium institutions in the country. As Jaideep said, we are very unique in terms of our interdisciplinary teaching approach, where you find one of the top colleges alumni are teaching at Jindal School of Art and Architecture. So this is all about our admission process for the B Design. For B Arc, our applications are now open, and we are again waiting for NATA to announce their registration for 2022 entrance exam. And the moment it is open, we will reach out to you directly. And till then, you can fill up our application form. And in case you still have any doubt, you can register. You can attempt our exam place entrance exam that we have created as sample NATA exam pattern. We call it NATA mock strategy test. That is being given free of cost from our side, which helps you to do a strategic live NATA entrance examination. So yeah, that's all from me.
All right. Thanks for that. Right. So I guess there are no more questions, so we can probably end this webinar. But thanks so much to Joydeep for taking your time out to come here, and Azad, thanks for getting this all organized.
Thank you, Dion. Always a pleasure to talk to you. My very best to all students. We look forward to hearing from you.